Hello, I'm standing here before the Primate training capsule that was used to train the first chimpanzees to go into outer space. It provides an opportunity to talk about Ham, the celebrity, and Enos, the forgotten hero. In 1783, the Montgolfiers chose a rooster, a duck, and a sheep to test the human ability to survive at altitude. Using similar logic, beginning in 1947, the Soviet Union and the United States sent a wide variety of animals into space to see how they could survive. By 1961, we still really did not know a lot about how animals would tolerate the launch and re-entry forces, G-forces, or even how the brain, heart, lungs, muscles, and gastrointestinal system might work in the weightlessness. So the decision was made to launch some primates because of their obvious similarities to humans. Ham was trained for 200 and something hours on a simple operant conditioning task to pull one of two levers based on light signals he received. On his terrifying 16-minute suborbital flight with 6 minutes of weightlessness, he performed very well, and when he landed, he did not seem to have any adverse effects. Although Jane Goodall, the primate specialist, observed that never in her life had she seen such terror on a chimp's face. He was giving a celebrity splash of sorts with his picture on Life magazine, and he survived for 26 years as a celebrity at the National Zoo and at the zoo in North Carolina before he passed away. He was given a plaque at the International Space Hall of Fame in Alamogordo, New Mexico. So even in death, his sacrifices were recognized. Enos, number 61, was trained for over 2,000 hours on a very complex set of tasks that he had to perform. If he performed correctly, he received a reward. Incorrectly, he received an unpleasant shock. Competing against 4 other chimps, Enos was given the dubious honor of being the first chimp to orbit the Earth. John Glenn was not too happy about this because John Glenn was scheduled to be the first U.S. representative to orbit the Earth, and instead the nod was given to Enos to let him go to prove the survivability of orbiting in space. Launch day in December 1961 was challenging. They instrumented Enos about 90 minutes before the launch, but then the launch was delayed by 2.5 hours. There were no provisions for Enos' bodily functions. On orbit, the environmental system failed and the capsule began to heat up, and he was confined in this terribly hot little capsule performing his tasks. On the first orbit, the operant conditioning system failed, and despite performing perfectly, Enos was receiving undeserved shocks. Despite 76 undeserved shocks, Enos continued to perform perfectly. He seemed to understand the requirements that his trainers had made, and he really did show that he had the right stuff. One of the thrusters on his capsule failed, which caused repeated firing of the rockets to correct the orbit of the spacecraft, further complicating his mission. Mercifully, ground controllers decided to deorbit him 1 orbit early and fired the retro rockets to let him come back to Earth. But things continued to go poorly for poor Enos. He had to spend about 2 to 3 hours bobbing around the ocean. During this time, he managed to escape from his harness, pull off all of his physiologic monitors before he was rescued on the ship. He was not really known to be very affectionate toward his human handlers, but when they released him from the capsule on the ship, he bounced around with joy, and shaking the hands of his rescuers. He cleared the way for John Glenn to orbit the Earth. Beginning with a duck, a rooster, and a sheep in 1783, animals have paid a very heavy price to allow humanity to go into space. Today, there's a debate about subjecting animals to human experimentation and whether the price they paid was worth the effort. However, I hope that you can remember by the story of Ham, the celebrity, and Enos, the forgotten hero, the importance of animal research and the many sacrifices they gave to allow humankind to venture forth into space. Thank you very much.